You might want to fish in the morning when the tides are coming in. You're getting that cooler water, a little bit cooler water coming in from the ocean. It's more oxygenated, and it's not going to shut down the bite.
Hello and welcome back to the Fat Dad Fishing Show. I'm your host, Rich Natoli, and we're back with a show that's going to help you. This is a help you show. Let's just put it that way. It's one of those help you shows, and we have Captain Benji Bar coming on. He's going to be sitting down with us. We're going to be talking about this transition. So we have transitions throughout the year for different species. You have it freshwater. We're talking saltwater today, though, and we're hitting a transition right now where we're going from the late spring into the early summer, and the fish change. They change the way that they act. You got to change your approach if you want to stay on them, if you want to have successful days on the water. So Benji and I are going to talk about that tonight. And I think it's going to be, look, maybe it's a review for a lot of you. Maybe it's a review for all of you. But maybe, just maybe, somebody's going to pick something up or hear something and say, oh my God, I knew that and I totally forgot. I need to think about that. And that's what it's about. And, worst case scenario, hopefully you're entertained. So that's where we are. Let's go through the sponsors real quick. Then I'll bring Benji on. Sponsors, Great Bay Outfitters, Radio Road in Tuckerton, New Jersey. Paul and his team have a lot of stuff going on down there. If you're not following them on Facebook, you need to do it right now. If you have anything to do with kayak fishing, Paul's got new products coming in all the time. He just had a video out of him demonstrating, I think it's called the Mossa. I think that's how you pronounce it. Man, that kayak, that power kayak is awesome. He's doing circles of it in the lagoon. And it literally, he made the comment, but it literally looks like it has bow thrusters on it, the way that it's moving. For those of you like me who love kayak fishing, you don't get that. You don't get that with 99.9% of the platforms. I certainly don't get it on my Old Town Big Water. And I was looking at that and I was just thinking, wow, I could do a lot with that thing. I could do a ton with that. So if you want to check out any new kayaks, even kayaks that are used, he has them. He sells them on consignment. He has Old Town. He's got Native. He's got a bunch of different brands in there. And the cool thing is you can try them out on the water. The shop is on the lagoon, so you can launch right there and test them before you buy them. You wouldn't buy a car without test driving it. You should not invest the money in a kayak until you test it out on the water. So check them out. Next one is Quad State Tune. Kevin Driscoll is the guy that you want to talk to if you have a Toyota truck, Tacoma, Tundra, 4Runner, even a Lexus 460, 470. They have great engines, but they can be better. And these engine tunes that Quad State Tune has will get you more horsepower, better throttle response, more torque. If you're towing anything and you have a Toyota, reach out to Kevin and see if it's something that can help you out, because you're burning enough fuel, you're putting enough wear and tear on that engine as it is. This just makes it better for you. You can reach out to him at 484-633-5975. And then the final one is Lil Ol' Me, Rich Natoli, Real Estate. I do residential and some commercial in southeastern Pennsylvania. If you or anyone you know is thinking about buying or selling or investing in real estate anytime in the next year or two, give me a call, give me an email, give me a text, 267-270-1145. And you can email me at natolirealestate@gmail.com. Love to work with you. I love working with people that are referrals from this show. I have several of them over the past year, and it is greatly appreciated. That's what pays my bills. That's what gets me on the water every once in a while lately. So I appreciate that. And with that said, we're going to jump right on over. We're going to bring Benji on. Good to see you, man. Welcome back.
Hey, Rich Natoli. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right. So you've been on a few times, but let's just make sure everybody knows who you are. So why don't you give a quick introduction, talk about your charter business, your guide service, and then let's talk a little bit about this transition that we're all facing at this point.
Yes, indeed. And I appreciate it. I've been on, got some frequent flyer miles now. This is probably my third or fourth time on the show, so I enjoy each opportunity. But I'm Captain Ben, everyone. Those of you who don't know who I am, I run a small charter business for crabbing and fishing down in the Summers Point, Ocean City, New Jersey area. You can reach out to me. I'm booking some trips right now for July for crabbing on the weekends only right now. 609-431 0017. I've been fishing since I was 8 years old. My first fish, like many of you, was a stinking old catfish, followed up by a little bluegill. But yeah, I've been fishing for a long time. I'm a little bit older than I look here. I know you see the bald head. That's on purpose. All right. But yeah, I've been hanging out with Rich and the crew for a while now. Got out there with kayak fishing. Got a skiff, 17-foot skiff that I run. I also have a 21-foot center console that I also run. So all types of fisheries, the flounder, the crabbing, the sea bass, you name it. That's what we do, crabbing and fishing. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We're all over.
That's awesome. My brother is going to eventually be reaching out to you. He wants to do a crab and fishing day with his boys. So you can expect that. I don't think he's on tonight. He's usually in the chat picking on me, but I don't think he's on right now. A couple of things that are in the chat. First of all, welcome everybody that is in the chat right now. I'm seeing there are people that are just having trouble getting on the water lately. And that is a common issue that it seems like everyone's running into. Seeing the comment that the boat gives him dirty looks every time he drives away without it. Yeah, I think that's how my kayak is feeling at this point. And I do see Bow Tie Killer 545 Grassy Sound Fluke Tournament is this weekend. I was so excited to do this, and I had a schedule conflict. Can't do it. I'm not going to be available to do it this weekend, and I'm really disappointed about it. And yeah, are you doing it?
I'm not sure. I'm waiting to see what Joe B tells me there. Joe Billups is in there. He's saying giddy up. We didn't get to chat about the tournament, whether or not. I saw the post of it myself. I've yet to join that with you.
He has no excuse. He can literally walk there.
Yeah, he can.
So, Joe, you have no excuse. Get out there. Let me fish vicariously through you guys. I will not be on the saltwater this weekend. I will be on some freshwater. It's not my preference, but that's what I'm going to be doing. Oh, that's Lunchbox. That's right. Bow Tie Killer is Lunchbox. For anyone who doesn't know Lunchbox, you got to meet him out on the water. He is great for a drive-by. He'll swing by, he'll make you laugh, and then by the time you turn around to answer, he's gone. He is just gone and back in the marshes. Comes back later, caught a 22-inch. You turn around to talk to him, he's gone. He's all over the place.
That's how you got to do it. You sting him, and then you go.
Yeah, that's him. He's the old hit and run. All right, so let's dive into this. Look, I was going to call it, let's do 15 tips. Let's do 10. I don't know how many tips we're going to do. And I probably won't know them until I go back to edit this later for the audio version. And then I'll count it up, and then I'll lose count as I'm doing all the editing. So let's just call it, they're supposed to use odd numbers, 9 tips. And then anything else is a bonus in there. And Ben, you're the guest. So do you want to start off with your first tip or first thing to keep in mind as we start transitioning from spring in towards summer fishing inshore and near shore in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast?
I'll start us off, Rich, and I thank you because we haven't even gotten started and I've learned something already. He said we need 9. Well, I have an odd number, but it's not 9. It's only 3. Well,
okay.
So number one, right?
I have
number
15.
The number one adjustment that we all know, right? Early in the season, at least for most of us, when we're out there looking for these flounder, we're fishing in the shallows, right? We're up shallow. We're looking for the warmest water we can find in the back bays. Well, as the water continues to increase, which right now it's up and down, I can tell you I've been out there. I've seen wild swings right now, anywhere from 62 degrees still up to 71 degrees, depending how close I am to an inlet versus the back bay. And quite frankly, the colder water is in the back. It's not up front as you would think it is. Right. But so, transition number 1 or adjustment number 1 that we're looking for is things start to heat up temperature-wise here. We've had a couple heat waves already, but you're going to start working your way towards some deep cuts. You're going to, start shying away from the shallows. I'm not saying you need to abandon them altogether because I did catch a couple keepers just last week in some shallows, and I'm talking 5 foot of water. But you're going to want to start moving to the double digits, in my opinion, and then also the drop-offs and the channels.
Yeah, I had that, and that was one of mine as well, and specifically for fluke, right? So fluke early spring when it's cold, you're looking up at, now not always. Look, you can catch them in 60 feet. You just can when the water's cold, but the best spots for fluke are going to be the shallower waters early in the season, and that's starting to change. There is a temperature tolerance for every species of fish, and when you start seeing anything around 58 to 65, that's really where the fluke kind of turn on. But then as you get higher and higher, they start looking deeper and deeper. So they're not going to be sitting up and baking on the mud flats in the middle of the day, especially as it gets really hot. So if you get a heat wave for several days, that's where you definitely want to start looking. But I'm with you. I'm looking at this time of the year, mid-June, and not even so much the time of the year, which is, I'll make that the next tip. But when the water temperatures are where they are right now, I'm starting to look, 5 feet is probably the minimum. I will fish shallower early in the season, and I am looking for double digits. So I'm in the 10 to 15 range right now. Not a lot deeper as a place to start. I'll look there if it's not producing in that 10 to 15, but I'm looking 10 to 15 feet. And I love what you said. You're looking for the cuts. You're looking for the drop-offs. There's got to be some type of a structure there. Just don't look for a flat 15-foot, mile-long, flat.
You're right. You want to look for your structure lines. I mean, those of you out there, everybody's got electronics. I mean, if you're not fishing from land, you're on a boat. You got to learn how to read those lines, see where the structure is out there in order to be able to find the fish. And then behind that, right, as we always preach, you got to have that predictable current flow. You got to have some moving water. But again, as these temperatures start to rise and increase, as Rich mentioned there, the fish change their patterns, right? You got bait fish that are hatching. You got bait fish that are migrating in. Everything starts to change as the temperature rises. So I'm preaching to the choir, right? Because we're all experts. On the water. So
I keep hearing how much of other people are experts and I'm an idiot, but I still haven't found where I've given opinions that people don't necessarily agree with. But if you know me, most of what I actually say is based in fact and science. It's not me making crap up to sound smart. I'm just repeating things that I've learned from like scientists, things like that. For the most part, I will tell you opinions, and people are welcome to disagree with those. But it actually, that number 2 for me was stop fishing according to the calendar. So, and it's like it goes back to what you just said, Benji. It's don't look at it's June 15th. That's when we're recording this. All right. June 15th, 2026. That doesn't matter at all. What matters is the water temperatures, as you just said. So fish the temperatures. That's what's going to really impact where the fish are and what they're doing. That's what kicks it off. If it doesn't get any warmer than it is today, all the way through the summer, they're going to stay in their pattern that they're in right now. They're not going to end up moving to these other spots. If, I shouldn't say that. If the bait moves there, they will, right? So as certain bait moves around, but for generally speaking, they're going to be sticking to certain areas and behaviors for a longer period of time, not because it's time, but because that's what the water temperatures are doing. So, and the other thing that I will mention is, along with that, it is water temperature. It is not air temperature. So we had a couple of days that were 90 degrees plus, at least inland. So, you had the heat wave going through. They didn't feel that day, right? They didn't feel it unless they were up near the surface. Day 2, maybe they start to feel it. The water's warming. Day 3, maybe day 4, day 10. Now the water temperature has changed. That's what's going to really kick it off. And it does take a while for a lot of these species to react to changes in water temperature. Not always, and I'll try to get into some of those later, but for the most part, especially a fluke, it could be 90 degrees today and tomorrow, and they just don't care unless it changes the water temperature.
Absolutely. You're 100% there. One of my components here does go into the thermocline factor, if you will, right? Which is, if you may or may not know out there, that's the difference between the surface water and where the fish that we're searching for are. So it's a little cooler at a certain point. Well, as Rich mentioned, day 1, 2, 3, that thermocline or surface water temperature gets a little deeper each day. Every day that's warmer out there, that changes fish's behavior. That changes fish position. that will make them move. So you have to be aware of these things, and you can look at your guides, you can look at your books. Here's mine right now, right? I look at these books, and as Rich said, you can't go by the date all the time. So you need to ensure, at least for me, I need 3 pieces of information in my book here: what I caught, what the water temperature was, what the air temperature was, and other pieces and components are in there as well.
Sure.
Who I went with, what part of the tide it was. But there's other things that you need to look at other than air temperature.
Yeah, it's probably one of the least important at this point, especially for the mid-Atlantic and Northeast species. Now, it can become very important in like Florida, right, where you're fishing deep water is 4 feet in a lot of places. Then it has a much bigger impact. But we're talking backwater, deep water in New Jersey, specifically in New York. Backwater, deep water is probably 50, 60, 70 feet in places. I mean, there are places that I routinely fish that are 45 feet. So, it's a lot different. It could be 90 degrees, 45 feet away. They don't care. They don't know. Fluke has no idea. It doesn't matter to them unless it's impacting the water temperature. All right. Do you want to do the next one, or do you want me to throw one out there?
Go ahead and throw one up.
Okay. So this is one of the things that goes back to science. I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but it is absolutely critical if you want to be the best, most productive fisherman that you can. And I'm not saying everybody needs to be, right? People come to me all the time. It's like, when does it go from being fun to being a job? I get it. If you don't want to do this, don't do it. But the more that you know the baits in the area, the more that you know the natural species that these fish are preying on, the better you're going to do. And for example, you need to understand how they're moving. What are the spearing doing right now? Where are they coming from? Where are they going? What's moving out of the rivers and towards the inlets right now? At the same time, what's moving from the inlets and back into the backwaters right now? And you can use those to target the species that you're looking for. And that's one of the reasons why you will see, again, I'll just use fluke as an example, they will start to move away from the rivers. Well, a lot of the bait is moving out of the rivers and it's moving towards the inlets. So understand where they are. So if it's bunker, if it's sand eels, if it's spearing, if it's just mud minnows, understand where they are at any given time, and then start kind of matching their pattern to where you're going to be looking for these fish. So that's the one that I have. What is that, number 3? I think it's number 3.
That'd be number 3 for you. Before we jump into the equipment and tackle, I mean, those are the obvious components of it, but there's also some technical strategies behind that as well, right? You're going to change your technical techniques, right? Your techniques. In the spring, if you're chasing striped bass or striped carp, as you like to call them, you're low and slow, right? You're low and slow with your reel. As the water warms up, the fish get more active. We know this, not rocket science, right? You're starting to change things. You're starting to change your cadence. You're starting to change the speed that you reel in. So that's another thing. Your retrieval speed and your presentation is going to change. Your what you're using to attract that bite is going to change. Just like Rich said, match the hatch is a real thing. Know what baits are inflow. Know what baits are moving up. Know which baits are going out. If you can't match and entertain and get that fish's attention, they're just not going to bite. I'm not telling you that you can't catch a striped bass on top water right now and retrieving across the top. You can, but the other thing you're going to need to adjust is when you go after that fish, because you're not going to get them at high noon, high sun right now. It's got to be a little bit darker. It's got to be a little later in the day. It's got to be first thing in the morning. So another adjustment that you have to make as these temperatures change for us humans on top and out of water.
Yeah. So I had one, actually the 5th one that I wrote down was, you really have to, and this is more specific to a particular species. So you mentioned striped bass. So let's talk about striped bass. When the water gets warmer, really when it starts, around 60, mid 60s, right? The water temperature goes up above mid 60s. during the day, it becomes a much more difficult bite if you want to go out and target striped bass, especially in the backwaters. Now, out front, you got to find them. If you're looking for migration fish, it stays the same. If they haven't migrated through your area yet, it stays the same. Their migration patterns. But once they start transitioning over to the resident fish, which are going to be the ones in the area, their behavior changes. So they're going to be less likely to be biting during the day. They're going to look for those deeper channels. They're going to be very, very focused on current, and it very much becomes a night bite when you're talking about striped bass. I mean, there's no better time to fish for a striped bass in the summertime than first light, last light, and overnight. And I put it in that order. Overnight is just amazing, and I think a lot of people know that. But at that point, you're looking more at channel edges and structure that are going to kick the current off in a specific way. Bridges and pilings become huge for striped bass. But yeah, it's really know what the striped bass are doing. Now, look, I know, and I heard this before. I said this a couple of years ago on a show. I said the same thing, and I got torn up. You don't know what you're talking about. I do charters every day in the backwater. Yeah, great. You can catch them during the day. You can, but let's not pretend that it's the ideal time of the year to be fishing for striped bass in the daytime. So you can do it. I know guys, I know captains, they're excellent captains. I know some guys that are not excellent at anything fishing related, and they will be the first to tell you, and they catch them all day. But it's not as easy as it is when you're going at other times of the day, like first light, last light, and overnight, because those temperatures really affect what they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just happenstance. I mean, if you're out there every day, of course, you're going to come across your target species because you're there every day. That's fishable. Right?
And they get really good, too. You know, you're guiding striped bass tours in the backwaters, and that's what you do. You get really good at it. You learn exactly where they are. But you're not catching the numbers and the quality, meaning size, of the fish that you're getting during the cooler months of the year. You're just not. You know, I mean, that's the way I look at it. It's still a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely.
If you find a captain that is good at fishing throughout the day and you want to take those charters, yeah, there's no reason not to. But for the most part, your best bet, first light, last light, and overnight for the striped bass.
I got another one I can toss out here for you if you're ready for it. I mean,
yep.
And hopefully we're not insulting anyone's intelligence here with these things. But as Rich said, hopefully, somebody will be able to pick something new up. Also want to shout out, I see you got somebody on here from Okeechobee, Florida.
Yeah, I saw that.
To the show. That's fantastic. That's awesome. But yeah, tides. If you fish tides, not everybody can hang out on the water all day long. So we try to time our things just right. I like to fish certain parts of the tides, but you need to be able to command the tide in the summertime when the heat picks up and the states change, right? And what I mean by that is, again, in the inshore, near shore, and back bays, high noon sun, it cooks those shallow flats as we were talking about before. So quite frankly, the outgoing tide is pulling out superheated water that's been laying back there on the mud flat, garnering all that heat, all that UV, and it's become low oxygenated, right? So it pulls the water out of the marshes, That can actually shut down an afternoon bite if you think you're going to go fish in the afternoon and have a successful outing. It is something that you have to consider when it starts getting hot again. You might have to adjust your thinking and your thought process because you might want to fish in the morning when the tides are coming in. You're getting that cooler water, a little bit cooler water coming in from the ocean. It's more oxygenated, and it's not going to shut down the bite like it will when it's too hot, when the water's too hot.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think what people need to, if you don't know this, or this is one of those things that people probably knew, but maybe forgot. Cooler water is able to hold more oxygen than hotter water. So you look at areas, look down south. I fish North Carolina quite a bit, and I fish Pamlico Sound. So the areas that I go, it's really deep when it's 2.5 feet. So it gets hot, like 96-degree water hot. And there's less oxygen in that. So when you find a break in any temperature and you can find something that's, even just regular cover, ledges that have a current coming in from an inlet, if you happen to be anywhere within 100 miles of an inlet, that can make all the difference. There's just more oxygen in there. So think about it this way. You had this whole thing about playing back in the day, Mile High Stadium in Colorado. The air's thinner, and if you've ever been out in Colorado and you're hiking up the mountains, you can get out of breath, even if you're in good shape, just on something that you can normally do back home, right? You walk up a hill, how about this? You're going one bar to the other, and you find that you're getting winded. Ask me how I know. You find that you're getting winded. You're like, oh my God, I walked like 5 times as far when I lived in Charlotte than when I'm just walking up this, from up this street from one bar to the next. It's because there's less oxygen. Well, that's what fish go through when they're in the hotter water. It's just less oxygen than the cool. So if you can find that cooler water, especially on the really hot days, the bigger that temperature break, the better, because it's going to hold more oxygen, which makes it's just easier for them to breathe. It's easier for them to live. They're not, burning a ton of calories just sitting there waiting for their food. It's a much more comfortable area, not just for them, but also survival wise for them. So yeah, it's a good point about the oxygen. I had that on there too. Like it's just something you have to know. Now you can also get oxygen from flowing water that's, riffled and things like that. So, which is often, to take it one step further, if you are fishing the hot water. So for example, when I'm fishing Pamlico Sound and you have a wind kick up because there's a storm blowing across, and of course you're way too far to get off the water, so you just sit there and kind of wait it out. Well, I look for the wind blown shorelines at that point where the wind is coming up against the weeds and it's kind of riffling the top. There's a temperature exchange there. There's an oxygen exchange there. And I target that for redfish. And the most redfish I ever caught were before storms, when the wind kicked up and it was just blowing along those wind-blown shorelines in the summer, anywhere from 90 to 95, 96 degree water. And man, they lit up. Now, I don't know if it was because of the storm and the temperature drop, which is another topic, but they weren't biting on the non-wind blown area. So that cool air started going through, started hitting those shorelines, and all of a sudden I'm catching redfish.
I'm willing to bet that there was a slight temperature change in the water and they became active and frenzied, and you had yourself probably a banner day that day.
It was fun. It was a little nerve-wracking, if I'm being honest. A little story time. I was getting nervous because I was miles from the launch, and I had a prop kayak, and I don't like going through grass with it because it'll churn it up. It'll pull it all out. I don't like doing that. Not because I have to clean the prop, but just because I don't want to ruin the flats, the grass that's back there. So there's like these winding ways that you can go, which makes like a 1 mile really like a 2 mile trip. And I couldn't get back. So I was really nervous, but I was like, I may as well fish. There's nothing else for me to do. The lightning wasn't close. It was pretty far, but it was windy as hell. And I just kept thinking, worst case, I capsize in 1 foot of water, and I was good. But yeah, it was great fishing. I'll be honest with you. It was awesome.
I'll take that 1 foot of water. That's a lot lighter than what I took my tumble in a couple of years back.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Oh man.
I'm fortunate. I only capsized once unintentionally. Unfortunately, it was the Raritan Bay in March. And it wasn't really deep, but it was like a mile offshore off of Perth Amboy, or South Amboy. South Amboy. I think it was like 8 or 10 feet of water, but that doesn't matter. You can't touch. The water's in the low 40s, upper 30s. It's all... That is scary.
Nothing will make you realize how much muscle mass you've lost than trying to get back into a kayak after capsizing.
So you know what's funny? I lost so much fat over the past 2 years. I almost want to just try it. I would try it anyway, to get back in, but it's got to be different. I weighed like 290 something. And I'm down to 215 right now.
Oh man!
So it's got it, but I lost a ton of muscle. But it's got to be easier, right? I'm hoping.
I would, I would hope. I don't really want to find out. I mean, I hit 289. I'm down to 225. I just can't get that last 10 pounds. But
I hear you.
I'm a lot healthier and happier.
That's all that matters, man.
I see my wife in the chat there. Yes, I did indeed keep fishing, thanks to some help from Joe Billups and another partner we were out there with, wrangling up my gear. As I got over to the bank there, I got up on the side, gathered myself, and retied the one fishing pole I still had in my hand because I lost everything else pretty much.
Yeah.
But
I did the same thing. Yeah, I lost all my stuff at the bottom of the river. And actually mine, I was really concerned when I went over. First of all, it's cold water. I'm all alone, except there was a boat there. There was a power boat, and they were fishing near where I was trying to come in. And they saw me go over. I mean, I was maybe 50 yards from them. And they all come to the back of the boat and they're looking at me and I'm like, shit. I feel like an idiot,
right?
But I'm safe. Right. So I go over and I grab the kayak. They start reeling in. I'm like, I'm going to feel bad. Like, I think I can get back in myself. I'm going to feel bad. So I'm overthinking this at this point, but I'm feeling really good. Like someone's going to save me if I can't get in, right? They reel in their lines and they take off and they leave me in the water. That's in March. And they just left. And for all of you that the New York versus New Jersey Raritan crowd, they were New Jersey. They went to New Jersey. They did not go to New York. So you can't bust on the New York guys. Yeah. So they left. But what really got me nervous then after that was I was trolling at the time. And when I went over, the lines went around my legs and it was braid. So 30-pound braid doesn't seem like a lot, but you can't break that just with your leg power. So I had to cut them off, which meant the rods all dropped to the bottom. I lost like a tackle box. I lost all my cameras except for one, which wasn't even on. So I couldn't even get any content out of it. Yeah. So that was rough. That was a rough day, but yeah, I'm glad that you kept going. I went straight back and got out. Yeah, I was done. I was done for the day. But I did have one rod that I saved.
I got back up when I was on the bank. I told you guys keep fishing. You go. They went. And when I finally gathered myself, as I said, I got back in the kayak, went out there. I kid you not, first drop, boom, I had a fish. I said, yo!
There you go. There you go.
Check this out. But yeah, that was, to your point, though, there was one boat that went by, and as he's going by, he goes, you want me to call the Coast Guard? As he keeps flying past. I'm like, nah, I'm okay.
No thanks, man. No thanks. Thanks for slowing down.
But it's all good. We digress. I'm sorry about
that. Yeah, I'm sorry. All right. You target weak fish at all?
I do not target them. Every once in a while I'll get one by surprise, which is, really my sweet pleasure because it's my most favorite fish out there to actually eat. Oh, yeah. And I'm so sad that I missed those glory days when my father and his brothers and, my uncles and everybody used to catch the heck out of them. So. Yeah.
Back when a tide runner was almost normal.
Yeah.
So 30-inch plus fish was like, yeah, I just caught it. I want to talk about weak fish. Two things. So here's one tip that I'll give for weak fish to start. Weak fish generally prefer more stable weather than like striped bass. Striped bass, the nastier it gets, the better. Sometimes the dirtier the water, the better, right? They're just brutes. Weak fish are not. They're like the dude who drinks with his pinky up, right? So you have the bad weather, you have dirty water. Really, what it comes down to, the weak fish are probably not in that spot. So it becomes important at this time of the year because the weak fish are they're in the backwaters, they're out front near shore. But if you want to target them, and people are doing that more and more every year now, you will set yourself up if you look for the more stable, consistent weather rather than, forcing it in. Some days you just don't want to force it. How about that? I'll just put it that way.
That's now, and even to target the weak fish, that's something, there's an art form to it. Knowing what tackle to use, light tackle. You got tackle to consider. You got time of day to consider. You have hook set, plastics. Whether if you can find some some shrimp that they love. It's really an art to landing weak fish anymore.
I think it can be. Yeah. I mean, to target them is just, I love doing it. I don't keep any because I still think that, I want to return them because they still very, very low populations, but just the fact that they're back there now and you can literally target them on the right day and fully expect that you're going to catch multiple weak fish. If you know where to go, there are some techniques to it. I think they are one of the species that people overthink the most.
Probably.
I really do.
Over the past 2 or 3 years, I've found one location that produces regularly. But yeah, it's just not that one fish limit is just not something that I target. If I catch them as a bycatch and it's a keeper size, I'm bringing it home because it tastes that good. I'm sorry.
Well, if you want to go and target them in Cape May County, shoot me a text. I'll send you some pins of some things. And some of these are actually spots that have produced since I was a kid. So we're talking, specifically Avalon, Stone Harbor, Wildwood, Cape May, backwaters is what I'm talking about. And a few of them, I literally was fishing when I was a little kid, and I would take the rowboat and I would row 2 of them. Or if they were further away, I would say I'm going sailing. So I'd take the sailboat, the little 1-person sailboat, and I would just go sailing until I got to the spots. And then I would just kind of throw the anchor onto the sod banks and let it kind of position myself over top of these holes. Yeah.
I would like to go after, so I'm going to ask you, I'll remind you to send me a pin, but the spot that I'm referring to is probably down around the bend from, I'm going to call it an overpass from your favorite spot.
There you go. Very good. Yeah. So, but weak fish, be careful with those. And the second tip with the weak fish is, again, the cleaner water. They want the cleaner water. So that's specifically the reason that I had that on my list is, yes, consistent weather helps. Cleaner water is important because if you have a thunderstorm with a lot of runoff, it does tend to turn them off. So they're not as resilient in their feeding. This is an opinion. Feel free to disagree with me, people. When you compare speckled trout versus weak fish, everyone thinks they're the same. They're totally different species. And I have no problem catching speckled trout in the dirtiest water in whatever. I can catch them. I think they're a lot easier to target. Weak fish, like I said, they're like all hoity-toity, highfalutin. If the conditions aren't perfect, they're not biting. And thunderstorms with a lot of runoff, the water gets dirty. You got to look for the cleaner water if you want to target them, but you have to find the cleaner water in a spot that they'd really like. So I typically would say the first clean water in the right spot compared to where they should have been if conditions were perfect. Does that make sense?
I think it makes sense. And James Flynn's asking, are you looking at different structures for weak fish? Well, I guess you could consider it structure. Rich alluded to it a little bit of, he doesn't like getting it wound up in his propeller of his kayak, but those are typically the areas I'm looking for them that has that type of material.
Yeah, as far as what I'm looking for weak fish, I do best. Now, there are a couple of differences. Overnight, so here's another thing about weak fish. Low light is awesome for them. So absolutely. Talk about a night bite. Weak fish at night is amazing. Like for me, just like with fluke, at night is the best time. Striped bass at night is the best time. There are very few species that I think you should not fish at night for. Well, like some go to sleep, but if they're awake, like those are 3 that I would always go at night first if I just wanted to catch fish. But as far as the structures, one of the things that I'm looking for, and let's talk about the daytime because it does change a little bit at night. In the daytime, if you can find the confluence of multiple currents over a drop-off with a current relief next to it, like it's still in a deep area drop-off, but next to where these 2 currents come together, especially 2 different temperature currents, that's where I get them. Which now you know why I can tell you that there are certain spots that I will show you that have been the same since I was a little kid because it's still a drop-off. And because of where they are, there will always be a drop off there. So it's going from, 8 feet down to 20 feet. And the currents will always flow through there, and they will always be different temperatures. And I'll leave it at that. They will always be different temperatures. I should say this. On the outgoing, they will always be different temperatures.
Yes.
All right. Now I feel like just pulling up a map and pointing some out, but
no.
I'm not. No, I'm not going to. I feel like it, but I'm not going to.
We'll save that for the big reveal show.
Yeah. I got to get on the water and do that. All right. Do you have another one that you want to put on there?
I was just thinking, again, along the equipment and the tackle, speed and stealth again, or the speed in general. You also start to look at, scaling down what you're using, because in the early springs, I'm using heavier braids. When it gets hot and I'm doing other things, I can lower that down. I can go from 40 to 30, all the way down to 15 as far as my braid is concerned on my lines. And I'm also changing my mono and or fluorocarbons. You can change and lighten things up so that you can have better sensitivity on what it is that you're targeting, what you're doing. So that's a really big adjustment that most folks may overlook, because some folks, they like a real heavy leader at all times. And some folks like heavy braid mainline at all times. But, it can really impact the outing that you have if you change those things up a little bit.
It absolutely can. And I'll take it a step further. And I think you meant to put this in there as well. At this time of year, you're going with the smaller baits because you're matching the hatch, right? Later in the season, later in the summer, when we do a similar episode, right, I'm going to be talking about the baits, and I'll go again back to fluke. I'm going to be using like the smaller, 4.5 inch, 3.5 to 4.5 inch baits right now, soft plastics. When it gets to August and that water temperature is up in the 80s, I'm going to be throwing out the big stuff, like 5.5 to 7 to 8 inch. I'm going to be putting whole spot on for these things because I upsize the baits as you get further into the season. At this time of year, there's not a ton of bait in the backwaters and near shore right now. It's emerging. It's getting more prevalent. So I'm actually matching the hatch a little bit more at this point, and I'm going with similar sizes and profiles to the natural bait that's in the area. But again, that will change as we get further into the summer. I do like your point though about the tackle. As far as leaders, especially braid, there's not a big difference in diameter, at least between like 15 pound and 30 pound braid. It's not that huge of a difference. But there is a big difference between 10 pound leader and 20 pound and 10 pound and 30 pound, which is what a lot of people fish, early in the spring. And there's a big difference in the amount of drag on those when you're trying to get deep. So if you want to get deep, you should go with the smaller diameter leaders so that you can get down there, because otherwise the water's just pushing it up off the bottom. And I'm just going to say this it's not a hot take, but some people will argue it. You don't need, if you're in open water, you don't really need a very heavy leader to catch a very heavy fish. You can land a 50, 60 pound fish on a 10 pound leader. The leader is there to protect you against, breakage on other structure or their teeth, so on and so forth. I've never had a fluke cut me off because it bit through a leader, right? And I can fish very, very light leaders. So in the backwaters, depending on where you are, you may be able to go really light. That's why surf fishing, I never understand why people put 80 pound leaders when there's no structure for them to cut off on, unless they're near jetties or rocks or something like that. So, don't overthink it and think, oh, I'm going for 40 pound fish, so I have to have at least 40 pound leader. No, 40 pound fish, you should probably have 15 to 20 pound leader in most cases. So don't hesitate to downsize. It'll make it easier to get down deep. It'll make it easier to work the action on the lure because it'll move better. So when you're downsizing your equipment, make sure that you consider that. And in my opinion, when in doubt, go lighter.
Yeah, and following that up to your point with that is it really does need to be a quality product, whether it's the leader or the braid, especially when you're scaling down, particularly when you're scaling down, it needs to be a quality product. Some of those less expensive.
Gonna name names?
No, naming names, but some of those lesser quality lines out there, sure. If you get 30, 40 pounds, you have a decent chance. But as it gets thinner, you have to have a quality line. You can certainly there's a time and a place to save money, but if you're going light, that's not it.
Yeah, I think that you're correct. There are some crazy brands. Actually, there are some brands that I don't even remember what there were some really popular braids that I absolutely hate. And even though they cost more, like I don't trust them. Spider wire, actually. I don't trust spider wire. So I think that, you make a good point. Make sure that it's quality. Don't just get the $1 stuff because it's, $1 on Amazon. Get something that is going to actually perform the way that it's supposed to perform.
I want to like spider wire. I just can't because it's so stiff. It's not that there's anything else wrong with it other than the fact it's so stiff. And then when it's done being stiff, it striates apart. It tears apart. Like
that's my problem with it. Yeah, it like almost unravels. And maybe it's changed. I honestly, full disclosure, I haven't used it in probably 10 years. But it used to do that, and it used to drive me crazy that you'd spend all this. And back then, braid was really expensive compared to mono, right? So when you're trying to switch off of mono to braid, and you try to justify it, and then all of a sudden your spider wire that you're all excited about, you even got the shirt with the cool spider on it, and all of a sudden it's like unraveling.
If I'm in a pinch and I need some line, and I run in there, and all I see is that spider on the thing, I let out a big exasperated huff, and I turn around and go somewhere. I'm like, I'll do something else. I've tried to like it. I just can't.
Yeah. I've tried a bunch of different kinds. I just like the standard Power Pro, slick. I have no complaints about it. It's not overly expensive. Now, different leaders, I don't even remember. I've tried a lot of leaders, and you are correct. There are some cheap ones that are just horrendous.
Yeah.
Like you have 10 pound. I should never be able to take 10 pound in my hand and snap it. Yeah. Like it should be cutting me before it happens. But Absolutely. There was a 10 pound, I think Ed was with me, and I pulled this stuff out and I just pulled it apart. I was just trying to like tie the knot, and it broke. I was like, what the hell happened? So I retied it and it broke again. I was like, this should never happen. So I had to, I threw that in my bag, threw it away as soon as I got home. But yeah, it was less expensive, but it was crap.
It's a similar story with fluorocarbons. All fluorocarbons are not created equally.
No.
So again, that's something else. If you're going to buy fluorocarbon, you're going to have to spend a little bit more money on a quality product if you want it to do what you want it to do and have the expectations that you think you should when you're utilizing it. So I urge you, go ahead and spend a little bit more money on your fluorocarbons if that's what you're using.
Do you use it?
I do on occasion, and I typically have a bad outing with it.
Oh, really? I stopped using it years ago, and I think it was honestly, I was probably just being cheap. I just switched to mono leaders, and
I have much more success using a simple Berkeley monofilament. It's Berkeley Big Game monofilament is what I use, and I don't have any problems with that breaking off. I've had braid break off before that does. And again, that's where these lessons are coming from. Speaking from experience here with that stuff, folks. So.
Right. All right. So we're at our hour just about. Is there anything that you think that we should put out there? I still got a list of things, but I don't want to annoy people with adding more and more random stuff to it. Anything that we've missed that you want to mention?
The thing is random. I think these are all good points. I mean, especially if there's anybody new on here, and somebody like you said, if you need a reminder. I mean, it's things that we could easily forget, right? Scale down the reel too. 3,000, 4,000 might be all you need. You don't need those big chumpies anymore. So some of you may never switch at all. You might use 3,000, 4,000 all year round, but and that's great. But those are other things that you need to make adjustments for when you change your targets and you change the locations that you're fishing, from backwater to the inlets and making your way out to the reef. You change all your gear around, which is why, here's another PSA. That's why we have so many fishing rods and so many setups. It's kind of like shoes and purses for our partners, right? You go in, you grab what you need, and you go. You don't have to tear something apart and image it with something else. You just grab and go what you need, and off we go, and fun is to be had.
It's funny. I go out on the kayak with 4 rods. They're all set up different. Well, actually, 2 are set up the same, and then 2 are different. Mm-hmm. So usually I'll have, depending on what I'm going for, let's say I'll have 2 set up identical with the top bottom with bucktails. And then on the back right, the one inside of the one. So those are on the outsides. So I can just reach one way. So I know where to pull it, right? So I don't even have to look. When I used to be really fat, it was hard to turn around. I couldn't see. I had to do it by feel. The next one in was usually a popping cork. And then the one on the other side, on the left side, was whatever I thought would work that day. So I was bringing out a lot of slow pitch. But what's funny is I usually ended the day with the same rod and setup that I started the day. And I just, took 3 extra rods for friends, I guess. So I looked balanced.
Listen, you never know. You get that break off and you think you're into a hot bite. And you're like, nope, let me grab something back here that I already got ready to go. You don't want to sit and have to tie something up. So
no, well, that's why I have the one duplicated. I always have 2 of those. So yeah. So there are other tips. I'll just throw it out real quick. A thunderstorm, if there is a thunderstorm coming or a front and you get that low pressure, you will often see the fishing pick up, but make sure you get the hell off the water. So we'll leave it at that. And then the other one that I had is, I mentioned this a lot, but it is absolutely critical. New moons and full moons. You get the additional flow of water, and people say it's the best time to fish, and then they get really mad because they didn't catch anything. The most important thing to know is you have more water flowing per tide cycle during those periods of time. I don't care where you are along the East Coast, whether you're all the way down in Florida, all the way up in except for 2 places in Maine. The water, it's going to be flowing. You have to change your spots. You have to move to the area that's not necessarily the strongest flow, but right off of the strongest flow is where the fish are going to move to, and they will feed very actively. But, a lot of people, they just keep going to their same spot that was awesome, last week. Well, this week it's now a new moon. There's more water. That spot is blown out. The new spot is literally 15 yards to the right. So make sure you consider that. You don't want to always fish in the strongest of currents. So those are the last 2. Just wanted to throw those in before we hit the hour. And Ben, thanks for coming on, man.
My pleasure. My pleasure. This is always fun. I appreciate the invitations and, doing a great job. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. We're not going to be live next week. I have some stuff going on, and actually next Monday night, I will not even be in town. So Monday night is out. I'm hoping, I think I still have a couple of old episodes that I can put up on the audio only podcast, so we'll see about that. But I will be back after that, and I am planning to go at least 7 straight after that. So everyone, thank you for tuning in. This weather, man, this is the time of year, so it's time to get on that water, get some fish, share the pictures, text them to me, just because I've been so busy. I haven't really been out as much as I'd like to be. And I'd like to live vicariously through all of you. So everyone, until next time, get out there, get on the water, and get some tight lines.